Generation Iron app on Google Play and the App Store.
I'm not a morning person.
Dedicated to being passionate about it.
Bodybuilders have become more lazy.
People have always thought I lift fake weights.
Iran and the United States.
You take responsibility for that.
Is it true that your son is he competing, or you're training him to compete? Is that accurate?
You know, he was going to compete. He told me he wanted to do a bodybuilding show and a powerlifting show. So he's actually training, but you know, he's going to get married this Saturday. His son just turned 1 year old. Him and his wife, they launched their own apparel brand and exercise bands and whatnot. So I think he's just taking the business side, decided that he doesn't want to compete for a living. So he probably will get on stage as a hobby eventually.
Sure.
But I can't. That's definitely not in his top 10 priority right now.
I hear. So what advice?
He definitely has the goods, though. I gotta say.
Yeah, I saw the video of you too. I think you were at the expo or something like that, and you and your son were talking about that. But what advice would you give to somebody like your son or another aspiring bodybuilder that wants to actually make it a career though and get into this business to compete just like you were? I mean, what advice would you give to somebody like that right now? Because obviously, you know, you've been through that and you know everything in and out.
You know, I have people reach out to me all the time, and you know, I'm the type of person that tell you to go for what you want and all that. And I'm also here to be a mentor to help you kind of make better decisions. You know, because there's things that you decide to do when you're trying to. You know, when you're trying to win the Mr. Olympia, it's like all bets are off. But I'm saying just to get to the point where you can actually be a pro, and now that's how you earn your living from basically your body. You know, it goes from being a hobby to your career. So if you're still in the hobby phase, just make sure that you're doing things like investing your money. And, you know, it's kind of hard. I would tell people to get life insurance, but it's kind of hard for bodybuilders to get life insurance because of what we do. So, you know, eventually you're going to get to the point where you got to not necessarily put the weights down, but they're not going to pay you anymore to get up there and do quarter turns. You know what I'm saying?
I hear you.
You gotta plan for the future, and you got to think about your health first. I tell people all the time, things are so easy to access everything now. And, you know, if you talk to anybody in the game, as far as like the hormone clinic, less is more. You know, I do believe that when you're trying to be, you know, at the highest level, you got to do what you got to do. But I'm saying, like, most people don't have the genetics for that. So you shouldn't even go there, basically. But, you know, a lot of people do trying to push the envelope. You just one day everybody pays the piper. That's all. I mean, as long as you know that, that's the advice that I can give you from a 54-year-old man who did it, you know, more than half his life. Right. And I came out okay on the other side. I was, you know, and I'm definitely, I'm grateful. But a lot of this is my skilled thought. It ain't just lucky. You know, because when I was bodybuilding, I was studying how the body works, and you know, I used to tell people all the time I bodybuild on the cellular level. Only thing I'm not doing now that I was doing then is just, you know, not training intensely and eating all the calories. But my mentality is be healthy on a cellular level, which has a lot to do with what you put in your mouth, and what you don't put in your mouth, and what you don't allow in your body. So as long as you know, like when you're trying to study the game, you know, learn those things about yourself, because everybody's different, and you can go a long way. I think somebody like Brandon, and I told Phil this in 2012. When did he win his first Olympia? 2010 or 11?
11.
Yeah. We were backstage in India. And, you know, I'm Phil is like 12 or 13 years younger than me, something like that. And I remember I think I was 45 and he was 30. And I was telling him, I'm like, putting it in perspective in my mind. I'm like, wow, dude, you could be 15-time Mr. Olympia. Because I figured he'd still be as good in his 40s, you know what I'm saying, as I was, you know what I mean? And he was like, man, I ain't gonna be doing this 15 years from now. And I was like, wow, you sure won't. You sure won't be. You know what I'm saying? If you don't think that, you know what I'm saying, when you're 25, if you don't think about doing it when you're 45 or 50, you won't make it that far. You'll burn out, you'll crash and burn. This is a grown man's game. So, and and you got the greatest talent and work ethic combined to compete against. So they're going to push you. You know, if you're not up to par, you will learn. And some people keep going and pushing. I tell people, put it in perspective, have some other stuff going on, but enjoy yourself because it's awesome.
You know, you mentioned the finances and the rewards of bodybuilding, right? I was talking to Paul Dillette the other day. I was in an interview with him, and he was telling me that in his era, like late 90s, right, like early 2000s, he said, you know, bodybuilders were actually making way more money, and they were making you know, he said that was really the prime time for bodybuilding. And today they're making much less, even though I was thinking with social media, it gives more opportunities, right? And he was telling me, no, it's not true. Back then it was completely different. People paid for everything, you know, for expos, like it was just, and now everything is basically for free online, you know? So what is your take on that?
Well, see, back then the athletes were a commodity. So you had a value according to where you were ranked. And so you got paid for your image, your likeness. You know, I think Paul, I remember I met Paul in 93. Met him backstage at the Junior Nationals. Then we kicked it the following week in California. His Weider contract was $500,000. That's just from that, not all that, not going to FIBO and making $25,000 over the weekend. I mean, they was making some real money.
That's impressive.
And it's just like it's. I learned a lot. I got my business partner. He's a merger and acquisitions attorney. He taught me a lot about dilution. And what happens now with social media, so you have diluted commodities. So in other words, more people, like Apple about to do that 4-way split, and Tesla going to do the 5-way split. So that same stock, but unlike that, which were, you know, you got the same value, it gets spread out. And now people, you know, they'll freaking start blowing you up, you know, commenting, you know, you against you on Facebook, where back in the day, we used to have to wait 3 months just to see the pictures from the show, much less see who won and all that other stuff. Right. I mean, so people are just spoiled. It's just diluted now. And, you know, it's hard to get paid because everybody's doing it for free just to be for likes and clicks and all that type of stuff. So